A couple of days ago, my husband and I threw a party at our place to celebrate my promotion at work. I'd been grinding for that promotion for 3 solid years, and finally landing it felt like a huge win. I'm not going to get into the exact title of my new role, but what matters is that it comes with a serious raise. We hadn't told anyone about the money part, but of course, when we shared the news with our families, the very first thing out of my mother-in-law's mouth was asking how much I'd be making. The promotion had officially gone through about 2 weeks earlier, and just a couple of days later, my husband and I had both families over for dinner so we could share the good news. Everyone congratulated me, but my mother-in-law just went straight for the salary question. It was blunt, and my father-in-law actually told her she was out of line. Still, I answered honestly, partly because I was proud, but also because I know she's never really liked me or appreciated me. So yeah, I might have bragged a little, just to let her know that whether she approves of me or not, I'm still doing just fine. She gave me this cold, flat congratulations and dropped it. I thought that was the end of it, but clearly, she had other plans. Fast forward to the night of my party, she pulled me aside, away from everyone else, and said that after hearing what I'd be earning, she thought it was only fair for me to cover my sister-in-law's college expenses. And she wasn't just talking about tuition, she meant all her living costs too. I turned her down right away. My sister-in-law and I aren't even close, and even if we were, she's planning to go out of state, which is ridiculously expensive. In my mind, if anyone's going to pay for it, that responsibility falls on her parents, not me. The second I refused, my mother-in-law started lecturing me, saying that now that I was rolling in money, I owed it to the family to help out. She called me selfish for saying no. I told her I didn't care how selfish it looked, I wasn't even going to entertain the idea, and walked back to my party. I honestly thought that would be the end of it. I never imagined she'd follow me into the living room and explode in front of everyone. But that's exactly what happened. She started yelling about how she couldn't believe her son had married someone as self-centered and fake as me. The whole room went dead silent. People were shocked. Even I was stunned, because up until then she'd kept her dislike for me subtle, petty digs here and there, little backhanded comments, but nothing like this. This was the first real public meltdown she'd had in the 4 years I'd been married into the family, and it caught everyone completely off guard. I just stood there, not knowing what to say, while she kept going, unloading years of pent-up resentment. My husband and I have been together for 6 years, married for 4, and it was like all the bitterness she'd bottled up since day one finally came pouring out. She blamed me for her son not spending as much time with the family anymore, claiming that ever since we moved to the suburbs, she hardly ever sees him. She made it sound like I dragged him away, even though moving had always been our plan from the start and it was my husband who pushed for it, not me. He's even told her that directly, but she refuses to believe it. Then she started accusing me of being fake, saying I pretend to get along with everyone in front of people, acting like some perfect angel, when in reality I can't stand my in-laws, especially her. She also accused me of gossiping about her behind her back, which isn't true at all. I don't even talk about her unless I absolutely have to, and anyone close to me would back me up on that. Up until then, neither my husband nor I said a word, we just let her rant. But then she called me a stingy miser, claiming I always make my husband pay for everything even though I supposedly earn more than him. That wasn't true either, and we were about to shut that down when my father-in-law jumped in. Honestly, I was relieved he did, because what he said next opened our eyes to things we hadn't known before. He cut her off and told her to stop embarrassing herself and everyone else. He reminded her she was ruining my party and making a fool of herself. Nobody in that room had any clue why she was even doing this, since she hadn't explained. That's when she snapped back at him, screaming that the only reason she'd lashed out was because she had kindly asked me to pay for her daughter's college and I had arrogantly refused. She claimed that was proof of my selfishness, and she just couldn't keep quiet about it anymore. After that blow-up, my father-in-law said that since the argument was about my sister-in-law's college tuition, it was time to finally explain why she didn't have a college fund anymore. My mother-in-law immediately tried to shut him down, fumbling over her words and saying it wasn't relevant, but he was too angry to let her interrupt. He raised his voice, apologized to both me and my husband, and made it clear that paying for my sister-in-law's education was not our responsibility. He told us point blank that I hadn't done anything wrong by refusing, it was a huge expense and it wasn't mine to carry. Then he admitted something that left the entire room in shock. He said he had originally set aside money for both of his children, but a couple of years ago, he had to use a big portion of it to settle a lawsuit, and that lawsuit existed because of my mother-in-law. The room went silent. Nobody knew what he was talking about. My mother-in-law burst into loud, dramatic tears to try to drown him out, but he just kept talking. That's when we learned the truth. About 3 years earlier, my mother-in-law had actually tried to sabotage my marriage by pushing another woman onto her own son. I know it sounds insane, but it all lined up. I remembered it clearly because back then there was this woman who wouldn't leave my husband alone. She flirted constantly, both in person and over text, even after he made it crystal clear that he was married and not interested. At first, we just laughed it off, but eventually he started to think she was genuinely unhinged. The problem was, he had no way to avoid her because she worked at his father's company in his department. He even went to his dad about it, uncomfortable with her behavior since she was a junior employee. His dad told him he'd take care of it, but before anything could be done, she suddenly quit. After that, she disappeared, and we forgot about the whole thing. What we didn't know until my father-in-law spilled everything that night was that my mother-in-law had orchestrated the entire situation. Later, that same woman actually filed a lawsuit against my mother-in-law. To avoid a messy court battle, my father-in-law paid a settlement, and that was the money that was supposed to be my sister-in-law's college fund. I don't even want to dig into the ugly details of what happened with that woman right now, maybe I'll share it later, but the point is, this was all on my mother-in-law. Everyone in the room froze. My mother-in-law stood there for a second in shock, then bolted for the door. My father-in-law didn't even bother chasing her. Instead, he stayed behind with us, apologized again and again, and admitted he should have told us the truth earlier but didn't know how without breaking everyone's hearts. He explained that he had forced my mother-in-law into therapy after the incident and made her swear never to pull anything like that again, because even he recognized she had serious issues. My husband and I didn't even know what to say. We just told him we needed time to process everything, and he left after apologizing a few more times. The mood of the night was destroyed, people started heading out, and soon the only ones left were my parents. Thankfully, my sister-in-law hadn't shown up to the party, so she missed the entire ordeal. After everyone was gone, my husband, my parents, and I sat down to process what we'd just heard. We all agreed that what my mother-in-law had done, no matter how long ago, was vile and unforgivable. I didn't even have to convince my husband. He was furious, said he couldn't look at his mother the same way ever again, and decided on his own that we should cut contact. We also couldn't ignore the fact that, even though my father-in-law had been kind to us, he still covered it up. So we chose to cut ties with his family, at least for the time being. A few days later, early in the morning, my father-in-law showed up at our house. He said he needed us to give my mother-in-law a chance to apologize. My husband and I immediately told him that wasn't going to happen, but he insisted that she'd been miserable since the party. Apparently, after they got home that night, they had one of the worst fights of their marriage, bad enough that he threatened to leave her. That, he said, was when she finally came to her senses and admitted she wanted to apologize. On top of that, she wasn't just dealing with us cutting her off. Other people in the family had turned their backs on her too. A few relatives who had been at the party had spread the story, and soon enough she was blocked online by several family members. Even some of her closest relatives told her they wanted nothing to do with her for the time being because they were flat out disgusted by what they'd learned. I didn't feel the slightest bit moved by the idea of hearing her apology. What I had just learned about her had shaken me deeply, and I wasn't ready to accept anything she had to say. Maybe one day I'll be able to listen, but right now? No. My husband felt the same way, so he told his dad that for the time being, we wanted no contact with either of them, and that was something they needed to accept. But my father-in-law refused to back down. He said he had promised his wife that he'd make us talk to her, and while he admitted what she had done was horribly wrong, now that she wanted to apologize, we needed to give her that chance. I told him no again. That's when he hit me with guilt, saying that if I refused, I was no better than my mother-in-law. According to him, all the issues she had caused came from not giving people chances, and by shutting her out, I was acting the same way. At the time, I saw it as manipulation, and honestly, I still do, but part of me wonders if he has a point. I'm conflicted and came here for an outside opinion. Should I even let her apologize? Edit, a lot of people asked for details about the woman my mother-in-law paid to come after my husband. I skipped it earlier because I didn't have the full picture, but now I do. My husband spoke with the family lawyer who handled the whole mess, and we learned the truth. That woman was an employee under my husband back when he worked at his dad's company. At a work party, my mother-in-law noticed her glancing at my husband a few times. Most people wouldn't have thought twice about it, it's not a crime to have a crush, but my mother-in-law decided to twist it to her advantage. She cornered the woman, accused her of liking my husband, and later got her contact information. Then she straight up told her to flirt with my husband, promising to pay her for it. The woman initially refused, but my mother-in-law threatened to get her fired if she didn't go along. After enough pressure, she gave in and started relentlessly pursuing my husband. We brushed it off at first, laughing at her over-the-top behavior, but it soon became obsessive and disturbing. From what I understand, the woman eventually realized how toxic the whole thing was and quit her job, cutting off contact with my mother-in-law. A couple of weeks later, my mother-in-law was slapped with a lawsuit. My father-in-law scrambled to settle it privately. He paid the woman a large sum and had her sign an NDA to bury the situation. That's why we never knew anything about it until recently. Honestly, it still disgusts me not just what my mother-in-law did, but the fact that my father-in-law kept it from us this whole time. I don't feel like talking to him either. Update 1, thanks for all your comments. After thinking it over, my husband and I decided we don't owe his mother anything. If we don't want to hear her out, then we won't. She may want to apologize, but after everything I found out, plus the way she ruined my party with her tantrum, I don't even want to see her. My father-in-law keeps insisting I should let her speak, but the difference is simple: she refused to give me a chance because she hated me, while I don't want to give her a chance because she's given me plenty of reasons to hate her. If he doesn't get that, then I guess I know where his loyalty really lies. It's been a week since the party, and a lot of my husband's relatives have reached out. They told us they know this must be hard and that they're on our side. Honestly, that support means a lot, especially because his mom used to be so close with most of them. I was pretty much the only one she constantly targeted, but now that they know the truth, they're choosing to stand with us. That can't be easy, and I respect them for it. Of course, not everyone is reacting that way. While my father-in-law is trying the guilt trip angle, my sister-in-law has gone in the opposite direction and is throwing tantrums about it. I mentioned earlier that she and I don't get along much, which was one reason I refused to fund her college. If she wanted my help, she should have asked me herself. I wasn't going to dance to my mother-in-law's tune. Instead, after my father-in-law visited us, my sister-in-law called my husband and started screaming at him. She accused him of being disrespectful to his parents and told him he needed to grow a spine and stand up to me. My sister-in-law made it clear that she thought I was out of line. In her mind, I had no right to insult her parents and think I could just walk away without consequences. She said my mother-in-law hadn't asked for anything unfair by demanding that I cover her college expenses, because we're family and, as part of the family, it was supposedly my duty to take care of everyone. According to her, if I couldn't do that, then maybe I didn't deserve to be part of their family at all. She didn't even think her mother owed me an apology. My husband was furious. He told her she had no business getting involved, and since she decided to cross that line, he was done with her too. He blocked her on the spot. But she wouldn't let it go. She started messaging him through her friends' accounts, which was humiliating because it meant she had told all her friends about our private family drama. We blocked them as well, but she just kept making new accounts and new email addresses to try to get through. I honestly don't know why she's being so stubborn, or why she feels the need to prove she's on her parents' side. She doesn't seem to realize that she doesn't even have a college fund anymore. No matter how much she sucks up to them, that fact isn't going to change. If I were in her shoes, I'd be apologizing to me and trying to get on my good side, because that might at least give her a chance of getting financial help. Otherwise, her only option is student loans, and even then, she'd need to figure out how to pay them back. To me, it feels like she's burning the one bridge that might actually help her. But then again, she's not exactly acting wisely, just like the rest of her family, with the exception of my husband. Through all of this, my husband has been incredible. I know it hurts him to see his family act this way, and it's basically unforgivable, but he never once let it show so I wouldn't feel guilty. I wish I could fix it for him, because he doesn't deserve this. He deserves a family that builds him up, not one that tears him down. The only reason we ever tolerated his mom's behavior before was because he wanted to keep some connection with his dad and his sister. His sister had an attitude, sure, but we chalked it up to her being young and immature. And with his dad, things had always been good until we learned the truth, which felt like a betrayal. At least I have my own family standing by me, and he has relatives who support us too. I can't even imagine what it would feel like if my own parents treated me the way his have treated him. Through all of this, he's been strong for me, and I'm proud of him. I know I married the right guy. Update 2, it's been 3 weeks since my father-in-law showed up asking us to let my mother-in-law apologize. Back then, we weren't ready, so we kept our distance. To his credit, after that visit, he respected our boundaries and stayed away. But a few days ago, he reached out again. He said enough time had passed and insisted we let her apologize in person. We didn't want to hear it, but we also knew that if we kept saying no, they'd just keep pushing. So we agreed, hoping to get it over with. They came over, and the second she walked in, my mother-in-law started crying and apologizing. She said she didn't mean any of what she had done, that she'd struggled to accept her son marrying someone she hadn't approved of, and that it had made her feel unimportant in his life. She admitted she had been against me from the start, but claimed she now realized how wrong she was and would do whatever it took to make it right. We told her the only thing we wanted was space. We acknowledged her apology but made it clear we weren't ready to forgive or reconnect. But instead of respecting that, she and my father-in-law started getting defensive. They said all parents make mistakes, nobody is perfect, and we needed to give them a chance to improve. That's when I calmly reminded them that what they had done wasn't some small mistake, it was calculated, malicious, and damaging. It wasn't something we could just brush off. Maybe forgiveness would come one day, or maybe it never would, but for now, we needed distance. She stopped crying and told me that while she admitted what she did was wrong, it was in the past, and I couldn't ruin the family over it. My father-in-law backed her up. At that point, I asked them both to leave. If they couldn't respect what we needed, then there was no reason to waste more time. My father-in-law tried to turn to my husband, urging him to talk sense into me because he thought I was being disrespectful. But my husband stood firm. He told them it was my house too, I was the one who had been hurt the most, and if I wanted them gone, then they had to leave. They argued with him for a bit, saying he was letting the family fall apart, but he didn't budge. Eventually, they cursed him out and stormed off. I don't regret letting them come over, because at least now we know their apology wasn't genuine. If they were truly sorry, they would have shown it through their actions. Instead, they tried to downplay everything and guilt-trip us. That told me all I needed to know. Update 3, it's been 7 months since that visit, and thankfully, I haven't spoken to them again. They still try reaching out to my husband, but he's been clear, if I'm not speaking to them, neither is he. I've told him he doesn't have to cut them off for my sake, but he insists. He says he won't forgive them until I do. Honestly, I think it's sweet, and I love him for it. And now, for the good news, I'm pregnant. I just entered my second trimester, and we shared the announcement on social media yesterday. We're also planning a celebration party in a couple of weeks, and we're not inviting his family. What's strange is that even though his parents have been trying to contact him for months, now that I'm pregnant, they've gone completely silent. Not a single message, not even a simple congratulations. I guess they don't want a relationship with their grandchild, and honestly, that's fine with us. Even if they came crawling back now, we wouldn't let them back into our lives. We're moving forward, building our own family, and we're beyond excited. I can't wait to be a parent, and I know it's going to be wonderful. Thank you all for sticking with me through this.